I wanted to take a second to talk about why I love sourdough bread making so much. It really has become one of my favorite things to do in the kitchen. And every single time I get into bake, I'm just as excited. I'm actually in the middle of a loaf right now, so you'll get to see that in just a bit. I'll shape it up, put it in one of these proofing baskets, and then send it on its way for the final proofing. Here you go, that's ready to go. And that's one of my favorite parts about making sourdough bread is this journey, this process to make this amazing loaf. Like, that's gonna go in the fridge overnight, and then in the morning, I get to bake bread, and every single morning I get just as excited. I'm serious. It doesn't go away. It's like you get to wake up like you're a baker at, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 10 a.m., whatever your sleeping schedule is, and you get to throw in a fresh baked loaf in the oven. Your whole house smells incredible, and it's so fun. And just the fact that like you can make incredible bread at home that you would see in bakeries, it still blows my mind. I remember the first time that I actually made bread like that, I just was so shocked that you could actually make bakery style bread. I always thought that was completely reserved for professionals or people who had, a ton of fancy equipment. But really, it doesn't take much. It just takes a little bit of skill, a little bit of knowledge, and some basic equipment. You can really do it with some basic equipment, and you can make amazing bread at home. And there's just something to the process of making sourdough bread that's completely different than anything else I've ever done in the kitchen, because there's so many fun elements that are involved. It's not just like, oh, I'm gonna get in the kitchen and I'm gonna, saute up some vegetables, make a stir fry. It's a totally different game. It's like, bread experimentation. And that's why I think I get so excited every single time to actually make bread, because it feels like I'm taking part in a new experiment. And that doesn't change. Every single time it does feel like a new experiment where, maybe the elements are different. Maybe the flour I'm using is different. Maybe the techniques are different, the style of bread. There's so many different elements that really could, make a totally different loaf. And that's what I love. And also just, the bread turning out differently every time. That's something that's really special to sourdough bread. And I think it's the reason why so many people are sort of pushing towards a movement back into making the original style of bread, which is sourdough, because you have this process that opens you up to just so much more than basic baker's yeast. When you use baker's yeast, it's so controlled. You're gonna get similar results every time. Sourdough bread, you're working with natural yeast, natural bacteria, so you're gonna get different flavors. You're gonna get different rising. You're gonna get so many different potential outcomes when you use a sourdough starter. And that is the experimentation there. That's what's so fun. You really have to be in tune. You've gotta pay attention. And it's almost like high stakes, it's a process, and if you're not really with your dough, with your bread, paying attention, you're probably not gonna get good results. And I found that the more amount of love and effort I put into a loaf, the more I get out, the better loaf I get out in the end. And I think that is the reward that I'm looking for, that I haven't found in other types of cooking in the kitchen. It is that high stakes. It's like you got to put in a lot of effort. You got to really be in tune. You got to figure some things out, and that's what's so fun about making bread. It's just always a different game. It's always a different experimentation, and there's no limit to it. It's like you can always get better. I'm always striving for the perfect loaf. And I don't feel that with other things in the kitchen. Let's tilt the camera down a little bit and show you guys a little rolling technique. So I'm gonna put this into a circular proofing basket. And what I wanna do is I'm gonna just flour this up. And of course, I'm not gonna get too far into the technique. You can find all of that in Sourdough U. But I figured I would just let you in on a little bit of the process. Make sure that's floured so that doesn't stick. And now we are gonna do some folding. And this is what's so fun, because it's like you learn these, you know, these techniques, these movements with your hands, and it's different. It's an art form like no other art form I have seen in the kitchen. It takes practice, and it's so fun, and you can always get better. So now I'm just tightening up this ball, creating a nice little skin on there so I get a beautiful oven rise. Look at the bubbles on that. So that's pretty much good to go. We'll toss that right into our proofing basket. And now these two things will proof overnight for, I would say, 12 hours. And I'm gonna wake up, turn the oven on, and just bake bread. Bake artisan style sourdough bread that is so tasty, that can feed your family, your friends, yourself, of course. And you know, once you experience that, I'm telling you, you will never go back. Once you have the skill of sourdough bread making, you'll have it for a lifetime. And that's how I feel. It's like I got the skill of bread making for a lifetime, and now I can save money. I can provide for, you know, my family with nutritious, tasty bread. I love it.